20 hours, that's how long I sat there watching funded traders, prop firm veterans, and 6- and 7-figure account managers stream their screens live. No edits, no highlight reels, just raw, unfiltered execution in real time. And here's what shocked me. It wasn't the setups, it wasn't the indicators, it wasn't some secret strategy hiding behind a paywall. It was how little they actually did. Same charts you're staring at right now, same candles, same news feed, same 24 hours in a day. So what's the difference between someone clicking buy and blowing an account and someone clicking buy and building generational wealth? Today, I'm going to show you exactly what separates them, because after 20 hours of watching, I stopped taking notes on strategy. I started taking notes on behavior. And what I found is going to make a lot of you uncomfortable. You've read the books, you've watched the YouTube tutorials at 2 in the morning, you've paid for the course, joined the Discord, back-tested the strategy until your eyes bled. You are not lazy. You are not stupid. Some of you are sharper than half the traders I watch stream. And you're still losing. So let's kill the excuses right now because I watched 20 hours of proof against every single one of them. It's not intelligence. I watched a former mechanical engineer lose $4,000 in 11 minutes because he couldn't stop revenge trading after a single red candle. It's not access. Every trader I watched was staring at the exact same free charting software. Half of you already have open in another tab. It's not capital. One of the most consistent accounts I watched was a $12,000 account, not a $100,000 one. The difference is this: what they do in the 60 seconds before they click the button and what they do in the 60 seconds after. That's it. That's the whole game. And almost nobody is looking there because it's boring and because the industry has convinced you that the answer is a better indicator. Let me tell you about 2 traders I watched. I'll call them David and Maria. Not their real names, but real patterns, stitched together from what I saw play out over and over across different streams, different platforms, different accounts. David was sharp. Former data analyst, laid off during a round of cuts, decided trading was going to be his second act. His charts looked like a control room. 47 indicators stacked on top of each other. RSI, MACD, 3 different moving averages, Fibonacci retracements, volume profile, order flow, a sentiment tracker pulling from social media, and a custom script he built himself that promised to combine all of it into one master signal. He talked while he traded. That's the part that got me. He narrated every micro movement, like a color commentator calling a game that hadn't started yet. Okay, RSI is showing oversold, but MACD hasn't crossed, and volume is a little light here. So I'm gonna wait. No, wait, actually, sentiment just flipped bullish. Let me get in now. He entered 4 trades in the time most people would enter 1. He exited 2 of them in a panic the moment they moved a few ticks against him. He held the third one way past his own stop loss because he had a feeling. He added to the 4th one twice, doubling down because his indicators told him it had to turn soon. By the end of that session, David was down $600. He closed the stream by saying the market was manipulated today. Not his execution, not his 47 indicators contradicting each other in real time. The market. Maria's stream looked almost nothing like a trading stream. It looked boring, genuinely boring. She used 2 moving averages and a horizontal line marking a key level. That's it. No color commentary, no narration of every candle. She sat, mostly quiet, sipping coffee, waiting. For almost 40 minutes, she didn't take a single trade. Chat kept asking her why she wasn't in the market. She said, and I'm paraphrasing closely because it stuck with me, "There's no trade here. I'm not paid to be busy. I'm paid to be right." When the setup finally came, price pulled back to her level. The moving averages aligned the way her rules required. She took 1 trade, predetermined size, predetermined target. She placed the order, sat back, and didn't touch it again. The trade hit her target 20 minutes later. She closed her laptop. 1 trade, 20 minutes of actual decision-making squeezed into a 2-hour stream, and she made more than David did in his 4 frantic trades combined. Not because she was smarter than him. I'd bet money David could out-analyze her on paper, in a classroom, in an interview. The difference is, she made trading stupidly simple, and he made it a performance. But the stream that actually stopped me mid-scroll wasn't David's. And it wasn't Maria's. It was a trader I'll call Tom, because his stream was the only one that showed both sides of the line, back to back, on the same account. Tom had been trading for 6 years. He told chat this himself, almost casually, like it was a confession he'd made 100 times before. The first 3 of those 6 years, he said, looked exactly like David's session, except stretched across 3 years instead of one afternoon. 40-plus indicators at one point. A strategy folder on his desktop with over a dozen abandoned systems, each one used for a few weeks before being replaced by the next promising thing he'd found in a forum or a paid signals group. He'd blown through what he estimated out loud at around $65,000 across 4 different accounts. Then something changed, and this is the part worth sitting with. He didn't find a better indicator. He got margin, called on his 4th account, sat there staring at his zero balance, and instead of funding a 5th account immediately the way he said he always used to, he closed the platform for 2 weeks. When he came back, he deleted every indicator except one moving average and a horizontal support line. He told chat, almost apologetically, "I spent 3 years trying to outthink a market that doesn't care how smart I am. I just needed to stop." Watching Tom trade now, on that stream, was watching someone execute with almost no emotional charge at all. He took 2 trades in the session. Both followed the exact rules he'd read out loud to chat before the market even opened. One lost. He closed it the instant his stop was touched. No hesitation, no reloading the chart to see if it would bounce back. He said flatly, "That's just Tuesday," and moved on to reviewing his checklist for the next setup. Tom matters because he's proof this isn't about who you are, it's about which rules you're loyal to. He spent 3 years as David, he spent the 4th year and beyond as Maria. Same brain, same person, same market. The only thing that changed was what he let decide his next click, his emotions or his rules. That contrast, David, Maria, and Tom's own transformation from one into the other, played out again and again across almost every stream I watched, just with different faces and different account sizes. So let's break down exactly what's driving it, because underneath that contrast are 5 forces almost every struggling trader is fighting, usually without even knowing it. The first is what I'll call complexity addiction. Adding another indicator feels like progress. It feels like you're doing something productive, like you're closing the gap between you and the answer. But it's not progress. It's a coping mechanism dressed up as analysis. Your brain doesn't like uncertainty, and 47 indicators feel like control, even though all they're really doing is giving you 47 different reasons to hesitate. Or 47 conflicting signals to justify whatever your gut already wanted to do. The 95% keep adding tools, hoping the next one will finally remove the uncertainty. The 5% have already accepted that uncertainty never leaves. It's not a bug in the system, it is the system. The second force is the need to be right, and it is quietly more expensive than any bad trade you've ever taken. Every trader I watched who blew an account during those 20 hours had one thing in common. They couldn't accept being wrong quickly. They held losers longer than winners because closing a loss meant admitting the trade, and by extension, their judgment was wrong. The 95% treat every loss as a referendum on their intelligence. The 5% treat every loss as a line item. Nothing more. David held his losing trade on a feeling because cutting it meant confronting the idea that his 47 indicators had failed him. Maria cut nothing because she never entered without already knowing exactly where she'd be wrong, and she made peace with that before the trade even existed. The third force is what I'd call performance mode. The need to be seen doing something, to be visibly working. This shows up constantly in the streams that go wrong. The traders who talk the most, narrate the most, and click the most are almost without exception the ones bleeding the most. Activity feels like effort. Effort feels like it should be rewarded. But markets don't reward effort. They reward precision, the 95% confuse motion with progress. The 5% understand that most of the trading day is supposed to look like doing nothing, because doing nothing, when there's no edge present, is the job. The fourth force is the illusion of control, and this one is the deepest. Traders desperately want to control the outcome of a trade, whether it wins, how much it wins by, how fast. But you cannot control that. You never could. The only thing you actually control is your process, your entry criteria, your position size, your stop loss, your exit rules, and whether you follow them. That's it. That is the entire list of things inside your control. The 95% spend all their energy trying to control outcomes they have zero power over. The 5% spend all their energy building a process so tight that the outcomes take care of themselves over time, even when any single trade doesn't. The fifth force is information hoarding, and this one is sneaky because it disguises itself as diligence. I watched traders during those 20 hours with 6 monitors running. Economic calendars, news wires, 3 different social sentiment trackers, a chat room full of other traders, all talking over each other about what the market should do next. Every piece of that information feels like an edge. It isn't. It's noise wearing a suit, and the more of it you let into your head before a trade, the more reasons you give yourself to hesitate, second guess, or override a rule that was working fine on its own. The traders with the cleanest execution I watched had the least information open in front of them, not the most. One trader put it bluntly, "Every extra tab is just an extra way to talk myself out of my own plan." The 95% treat more inputs as more safety. The 5% treat more inputs as more ways to get talked out of the one thing that actually works. Now, here's the part that most content in this space skips entirely because it's not as exciting as naming the problems. What actually changes when a trader moves from the 95% side of that line to the 5% side? Not motivation, not more study. Specific, boring shifts in daily behavior. I watch these play out in real time across the better streams. So let's go through them one at a time. Shift 1, they trade from a checklist, not a feeling. Every serious trader I watched had some version of a written list, sometimes literally taped to their second monitor, that had to be satisfied before a trade was allowed to happen. Not "this feels right." 3, 4, 5 concrete conditions, and if even one wasn't met, no trade, no matter how good the setup looked in the moment. One trader I watched had exactly 5 conditions on a sticky note. If all 5 weren't checked, he closed the trade ticket without a word, no debate with himself. The checklist isn't there to find the perfect trade. It's there to remove you, your mood, your ego, your need for action, from the decision. Shift 2, they decide the loss before they decide the entry. This is the single biggest divide I saw. Winning traders defined their stop loss and position size before they even thought about where they'd take profit. Losing traders, and David is the clearest example, often didn't have a real stop at all. They had a hope. I'll get out if it really turns against me. That's not a stop loss. That's a wish wearing a disguise. The 5% decide exactly how much they're willing to lose, in dollars, before they click anything. Then they let the market decide the rest. Shift 3, they size down until boring feels safe. Nearly every trader I watched who had been profitable for more than a year was trading a position size that, on any individual trade, barely moved the needle emotionally. Small enough that a loss didn't trigger revenge trading, small enough that a win didn't trigger overconfidence. One funded trader explained it simply, "If this trade going against me is going to make me want to take it back immediately, my size is too big." The struggling traders, almost without exception, were sized so heavily that every trade felt like a referendum on their entire month. Shift 4, they review, they don't relive. The winning traders kept some form of a trading journal, and they used it the same way every single day. Not to relive the emotional roller coaster of the session, but to check for rule violations. Did I follow my checklist? Did I respect my stop? Did I size correctly? That's it. Cold, almost clinical. The struggling traders who journaled at all tended to write essays about how the market screwed them, which is a very different exercise. One is diagnostic, the other is just venting with extra steps. Shift 5, they have a hard stop for the day, and they actually use it. This sounds almost too simple to matter, but it showed up constantly. The consistent traders had a rule, maybe 2 losses in a row, maybe a fixed dollar amount. And when it hit, the platform closed, no exceptions, no just one more to get it back. The traders who blew accounts during the streams I watched almost always did it in the back half of a losing session, chasing the loss that had already happened with size and speed that made the second loss worse than the first. Shift 6, they let boredom be the reward, not the trigger. This is the one that will sound the most backwards to you. Struggling traders treat a quiet market, a slow session, a day with no clear setup as a problem to be solved. So they force a trade just to feel like they did something. Winning traders treat that same quiet stretch as the system working correctly. Maria, sitting for 40 minutes, wasn't failing to trade. She was succeeding at not forcing one. Shift 7. They closed the extra tabs. This one came directly out of Tom's stream, and it was the smallest, most physical shift I watched. But it mattered more than it should have. When Tom rebuilt his process after that fourth account, one of the first things he did wasn't a strategy change at all. He closed the news feed, closed the sentiment tracker, closed the chat room he used to keep open during every session. He said the silence felt uncomfortable for about 2 weeks, like he was missing something important happening somewhere else. Then it just felt like quiet. The 95% keep every tab open because closing one feels like giving something up. The 5% understand that closing the tab is the edge, not the information that was on it. Now zoom out for a second, because all 7 of those shifts point at something bigger than tactics. They point at identity. Here's the uncomfortable truth underneath everything I watched across those 20 hours. Most struggling traders aren't failing at trading. They're failing at being who they think a trader is supposed to be. Somewhere along the way, you built an image in your head. Fast decisions, constant action, gut instincts, being in the zone, clicking with conviction. That image is almost the exact opposite of what actually produces consistent results. When you stop being someone who needs to look like a trader and start being someone who simply executes a process, the results stop being the goal and start being the byproduct. That's the identity shift. It's not about caring less. It's about tying your self-worth to your discipline instead of to your outcomes. David's identity was wrapped around being the smartest person in the room, the one who could out-analyze the market. Every loss threatened that identity, so he fought the market instead of following his own rules. Maria's identity was wrapped around being someone who follows her own rules. Full stop. A loss inside her rules didn't threaten anything because the rules were the thing she was actually loyal to, not the outcome. Tom is the one who makes this real, because he lived on both sides of that identity line, inside the same body, the same account history, the same 6 years. For 3 years, his identity was the guy who's going to figure this out through sheer analysis. And every blown account was a direct hit to that identity, which is exactly why he kept rebuilding bigger, more complicated systems instead of smaller, simpler ones. He wasn't trying to make money in those years. Not really. He was trying to prove something to himself, and the market kept refusing to let him. The turning point wasn't a new strategy. It was the moment he stopped needing to prove he was smart enough to solve it, and started needing to prove, only to himself, that he could follow his own rules for one more day than he had the day before. That's a completely different game. It's smaller, it's less impressive at a dinner party, and it's the only version of the game that actually pays. And this is where I have to tell you something that's going to deflate the excitement a lot of you came here with. Trading done correctly is boring. Genuinely, almost aggressively boring. If what you watched during my 20 hours had been cut into a highlight reel, it would have been maybe 90 seconds of actual trades stretched across 20 hours of waiting, checking, sitting still, and doing nothing. If trading feels exciting to you right now, if there's an adrenaline spike every time you click buy, if you feel that pull to check the chart every 30 seconds, if a green candle gives you a rush and a red one gives you a spike of anxious energy, you are probably doing it wrong. Not morally wrong. structurally wrong. That excitement is your nervous system telling you that you're gambling, not executing a process. The professionals I watched were closer to someone monitoring a factory line than someone at a casino table, watching for the one moment their conditions are met, and otherwise, doing something that looks suspiciously like nothing. That boredom isn't a warning sign. It's the actual signal that you've arrived. It means your ego isn't in the trade anymore. It means you're not trading to feel something. You're trading to execute something. So let's go back to David, Maria, and Tom one more time, because I think about them a lot since watching those streams. I don't know what happened to David after that session, whether he kept 47 indicators or eventually stripped it back to 2. But I know the pattern he was living, because I watched 3 other versions of him across different streams that week. Intelligent, hardworking, completely convinced that the answer was one indicator away, one strategy away, one piece of information away from finally clicking. Meanwhile, Maria and traders like her kept doing the same unremarkable thing they did the week before and the week before that. Same 2 moving averages, same one line on the chart, same long stretches of nothing, followed by one clean execution. And Tom is still out there right now, trading the same 2 tools on the same account he rebuilt after that 4th blowup, still closing the extra tabs every morning before the market opens. Still saying that's just Tuesday, when a rule-following trade doesn't work out. He didn't get a different market. He got a different relationship with the one he already had. Same 24 hours in the day, same charts, same information available to anyone with an internet connection. And 2 completely different outcomes built entirely on what happens in the 60 seconds before the click and the 60 seconds after. You get the same choice right now, today, before you open your platform again. You can keep doing what the 95% do, stacking more indicators, sizing too big, trading your feelings, treating every loss as a threat to who you are. Or you can make the shift. Strip it down, define your loss before your entry, size small enough that boring feels safe, and let a quiet session be proof the system is working instead of a problem to fix. Same market, same charts, same 24 hours. The only question left is which 60 seconds you're going to change first.